Hello, Jill here. Come on in and share with you what we're going to do for our letter D of our threads of intention. So for today, we would be on letter D. So we are going to do some doodle stitching. Now, I'm running through the alphabet. I'm doing one page per 26 letters, combining stitches and different techniques to create various little small slow stitch projects that will fit within my book. Then I try to put some meaningful words, at least that are meaningful to me, around the edge and date it and so on. So for this episode, or for this video, I'm going to be using the letter D, and I decided to do doodle stitching. So what have I done here? Doodles are usually, to me, they're small, and I wanted to share with you some of the doodle stitching I have done in the past that I found really fun to do. So let me get that book, just one second. So here's my little doodle book, and this is from way back in 2017. I'll flip through some of these pages just to show you some of the doodles I was doing at the time. And I was trying to do a doodle a day. Doodle a day. Maybe that's what we should have done for this. But anyhow, I was doing some of these little sketches and doodles and what have you. And I had so much fun creating them, and maybe just focus, like you could see there, on one color. And I did some shading and did some little houses, and I did definitely some crazy things, but you can do such neat things with doodles. So I thought that this would be a good opportunity to do doodle stitching. I did want to show you one. I wanted to show you some where I have color, and at some point I would love to do some stitching around these. So here's some of my doodles with color, and I tried to put a saying. So I'll just show you some of these. I just loved doing some of these swirly things and what have you. So anyhow, this is one of my favorite, just some swirls, and incorporating some black and some nice warm colors makes it really pretty. And so for today, I thought we would do some doodle stitching. So I've taken, let me explain to you what I have here on my page. I grabbed little pieces of fabric, and as you can see here, and these are not stitched down, I just grabbed little pieces of fabric, and then I watercolored some tea bags. And so all these little pieces here that you see are watercolor tea bags. And then I wanted to place them in some type of a grid pattern on my page. And I went back and forth about putting a backing cloth on them or not. And I may do that because I'm going to be stitching on them. It's hard to stitch on a single layer of fabric. But I'm going to do something like this in a grid pattern. And I doodled on these with my heat-soluble pen. Now, I don't always put these fit inside a regular friction pen that you can buy in Walmart, Target, at places where pens are sold, and you can use them in there. I don't bother putting them into the friction pen, and I'll tell you why. These are so easy to see how much ink is left in them. That might be silly, but you can see how much ink is left in them. They do disappear with heat, which is either via an iron or how I do it with my heat gun. Hold on, I'll show you that. My heat gun that I have in my craft room. This is a Heidi Swap. It's very old heat gun, but I've used it for ages and ages, and it works wonderfully. And I don't have to get up and iron all of these to get rid of the blue lines, but I'm going to use them for my grid for the stitching part. So that takes care, and I have cotton and a little linen piece on top. Now, what color threads am I going to use? I pulled out quite a few colors because I want it to be colorful. I'm I'm working on another project that for the month of January ended up being a lot of grays. That's my phonology wheel. And January, my theme was shadows, and in January we had so many overcast and cloudy days that it was pretty gray. So I thought, well, okay, this is February. Valentine's Day, of course, comes, and there's wonderful bright reds and pinks and colors like that. But now I'm thinking I want to go into some very bright colors, and that's why I made these soft peach, little pink and green here. So I thought for threads, I would bring in some peach color. I'm going to just lay these out so you could see them. Some peach. Some wonderful green. I'll lay them down this way. These are Perle cottons, number 12, most of them. I added this green, but only if I need a darker green. We'll use that. I also included an off-white because lots of times you need white for something, highlights or whatever. I chose a wonderful color of gold, and then I want to use this blue. I love this blue, and this is a really thin. This is a number 12, and I want to use the blue. So those are going to be my colors. Kind of, let me pull that down. Kind of Easter egg coloring. It reminds me of coloring Easter eggs. So anyway, these are going to be the colors that I'm going to use. So I'm going to grab my needles, and I think I'm going to go ahead and apply a second layer of fabric on the back of these just to stabilize them a little bit so that I could stitch on them. And even though my doodle, as you can see, I kind of doodled with it placed together, I will stitch all the way down that path there. So let me go do that, and I will be back and we'll do some stitching. Okay, so here you can see I've got my little fabric sandwiches put together with 2 layers of fabric and then my watercolor tea bag on top. All I did was save tea bags. I emptied them of the tea, rinsed them really well, let them dry. Once they were dry, I laid them out and just did a watercolor wash over the top. And then I cut them into little squares, whatever geometric patterns you would want, I guess. But I tried different colors, and I really love how they turned out. I'll do that again. And the reason I did it was I didn't have any cloth that was the right color. I wanted a deeper color, like this or like this in fabric. And I didn't see any in my stash. And my threads of intention, of course, is to use what I have and not buy something else. So I thought, what can I use that I can put some color on? Now, I could have watercolored the fabric as well, but I wanted a background of a very neutral color. So decided on the tea bag watercolor idea. And then since I wanted different colors, that made it real easy to pop in like a pink and something with some green, which you saw on the page. Here's a little green piece, and this, which will be in those positions when I finish the little stitching. So now what I'm going to do is stitch my patterns and decide what colors I'm going to use for them. So hang on one second, and I'm going to get those pre-prepared. Okay, so I got a couple threads ready here. I got a gold one and a blue one. I think I cut this gold way too long. Must have been thinking I was stitching a full-size quilt or something. Look at this. What did I do? Hold on. Let me make that a whole lot shorter. We don't need all that. Well, I don't know. If I do some satin stitch, we might. But I think I'm going to do, a lot of simple stitch. I think I'm going to do straight stitch, running stitch, I think I'm going to do some French knots, maybe some satin stitch down in there. Oh, and I wanted to do some fly stitch, I think, but we'll see. Okay, since this is gold, and I hadn't realized that it wasn't really going to show up real well, I did want to use it for this little doodle here. So I think I will use it for these and just see how it goes. And for these, I think I'll just use a simple back stitch. And since this is just for me, forgive me if I don't make the stitches exactly according to the book. But all you seasoned stitchers out there are more than welcome to criticize, but I have a lot of fun and I do it my way. But anyhow, I thought this was such a cute idea. I hope you like it. I hope you try it. I hope you try a couple of things. I hope you try watercoloring the tea bags. I know those don't start with D, and I wasn't going to try to come up with a word that started with D just for this project. You know what? I may take those over the edge. I always like them coming over the edge anyway. No, I'm not going to do that. Because there's something else I think I'd like to do around the edge. So we'll see how that works. Anyhow. Back stitch. I could use a stem stitch on some of these. We'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, I thought this would be a cute little project because if you're new, I do get a lot of new people on my channel, and if you're new and new to stitching, maybe you don't want to get involved in a big project or a project that's going to last, 6 months or a year, or perhaps like mine, this project, the Threads of Intention, is my idea is to have it last for a year, but not put the pressure on having to complete 52 items over the year, just 26. So if I miss a week or go on vacation or I get anything interrupts my schedule, I don't feel like I didn't get my project done. I felt it was manageable and doable for me. So you want to set reasonable expectations for yourself. And in doing so, I think I've came up with a plan. But if you're new, maybe you only want to do one piece and just try it out. You're not sure, that's great too. I'm just excited that you're going to try it. Now, I did wish I had some burgundy or some browns here. What am I going to do? I'm in a little bit of a quandary. Bear with me. Because I'm in a little quandary because I don't know, I like my stitching to take me where it wants to go. I don't always have a plan. I might have a plan for, I thought I want to do doodle stitching for D. And I thought that was a cute idea. But I had no idea what I was going to doodle or how they were going to turn out or anything like that. So, then I pick up some threads and I decide, oh, I like that color. Sometimes I like that color. Sometimes they don't go together. And I have to decide do I care about that? Or is my piece simplistic and easy enough to have colors that aren't coordinated? Like if you're doing a floral stitch piece, you want those the flower, the botanical that you're stitching to look like the flower that you're, like a daisy, you would want it to look like a daisy. So you might have the white petals and the yellow centers and so on. But when you're doodling, it opens the door for using whatever color, whatever stitch you want. And in keeping with the slow stitch idea, most of my stitching is slow, whether it meets the criteria for slow stitching. I don't know what the criteria is. I guess I make it up as I go along. Oh, and I hope you do too. I hope we're all on the same page here, and I hope we're just having fun, because that's what I want to do, is have fun. And what did I do yesterday? Oh yeah, I'm working on my February phonology wheel, and yeah, a lot of people might say it's a big stretch to be a phonology wheel, and whether I'm documenting nature adequately or appropriately for the term phonology wheel. But for the month of February, I'm doing Embroidery and Bridget's symbols, which has been just so fun. So it's kind of spontaneous as well. And while it's spontaneous, we also want to take our time, relax. If you feel your stitching and your shoulders are tightening up, or your neck, then readjust, take a sip of coffee or your tea, sit back. Know that nobody's telling you you have to do this. Nobody's asking for you to make them dinner or run them to the ball game or whatever, and that this time is just for you. And hopefully you'll find some joy in stitching. I know I do. I like to stitch every day, but sometimes my schedule doesn't permit, and that's not unusual. But if I find a little time to stitch, I think that's the important thing, that I do my self-care through stitching and through my crafting, through my other projects. And as long as I'm doing some of it daily, or I know if I can't do it today, my mind sets a target for the next day. And I go, okay, tomorrow I'm going to get to sit down, relax with my crafting, my stitching, and I'm just going to go from there. And oh, how fun is that? Now, surprisingly, these tea bags, of course, they're thin, but they're pretty durable. I mean, I might have thought that with my blue pen, some of the stitching might, the blue pen might tear the tea bag or damage it in some way, but it didn't at all. And now my stitching is actually going through very easily, and what do I want to say? I just think that these tea bags are surprisingly durable, more than I thought, and I don't have to worry about them. It's like you're actually stitching on paper, right? Which I like stitching on paper too. But you're actually stitching on paper, except this paper is a little more sturdy than just regular, copy paper or something like that. I don't usually stitch on copier paper, but you can. And I have other craft paper that I occasionally stitch on. And of course, the pages going into our book, each page is stitched on. Now, since this isn't going on a backing fabric, that's a good question. Getting a little ahead of myself here, but I'm not sure how I'm going to stitch. Well, I may have to stitch each piece individually onto our page of the book. Or attach these together before I put them in the book and stitch around the outer edge of the whole thing. I could do that. I'm starting to like that idea. I might do that. But if I put them on one at a time, we'll see when we get there. I'll have to stitch around each one and then go from there. So, boy, I was doing a little walk outside just a little bit ago. I had somebody here doing some things for me outside, and I walked out to take a look, and oh my gosh, you know, it makes me want to get outside into my yard and start cleaning up. And I don't know about you, but when the spring comes and I go, I want to get out and do some stuff in my yard and clean it up and make it look pretty. And then I'm all gung-ho and I get it done in the springtime. And then I maintain it for a while. And then Evan's watching somebody drive past. And then as the summer wears on, I just want to sit back and relax. And I don't want to do my gardening and my, you know, I get the lazy girl bit going on then. And but so this is my gung-ho period. Gung-ho meaning let's get started. Let's get rolling. But we've had a couple of days here, finally, from that freezing cold that was going across the U.S. to some lovely temperatures up in the mid-50s. And it's just so nice to be outside with not having to wear a heavy coat, hat, scarf, mittens, boots. So I walked around and checked out some things, and my little dogs helped me. They always help in the yard. Evan's great at weeding. He's so funny. I have some videos of him weeding, but he he just loves to help me in the yard. And usually as it gets warmer outside, they're even funnier because they decide they're going to take a break and they lay in the shade while I continue doing all the work in the sun. Oh my goodness. So cute how. Okay, so while my dogs were barking, I took a minute to finish up that gold on those spikes on that semicircle thing. And I'm thinking maybe I'll make these little, I have, I don't know if you can see my doodle behind there, but I have several doodles. And maybe I'll make it like a rainbow color. Maybe I'll use blue. I already have gold, green, and this little tangerine color, and make those lines something different. So we can start out and try the blue first. And then I don't know if I want to work on each of these little segments individually or work on them all together. Now, I'm thinking that maybe, should I have had this? Well, for this arch here, it's at the bottom of the gold. But I'm thinking maybe those other ones, those should have been underneath. So when I go to stitch those, I may be putting my stitches underneath. But maybe for this one, we'll just keep it on top. And I think I'll do a little stem stitch here. Let's try the blue. It's color of the sky, right? I wanted to do. And I want to put some borders around these. And I have enough space to do it, as you can see. I can either put it in the off-white, or I can put it in the on the tea bag itself. Either way would work. Let's get that down there where it belongs. Yeah. And I may have to pull some more colors out. You know, if this looks nice with all these colors, just going in my book. I don't have a lot of threads. I don't know if I've told you guys that. I have some I have very limited threads, very limited wools, and very limited cotton crochet threads, like 3 or 4 colors of those. And so with the very limited colors, it sometimes can be a challenge, and you think, oh, I want to run out, I want to buy a whole pack of multicolors, different colors. And then I go look, and then I look at all these colors, and they're so beautiful. I want to buy them all. And then I remind myself about my intention, and I rein myself back in, and I'm very careful about what I purchase and how much, and I'm very, very careful about that. I don't want to overwhelm myself. It kind of, you know, sometimes you can freeze up. Freeze up. Yes, actually, like almost take away your creativity sometimes. So you have, you know, I try to be careful that I don't want to be discouraged. I want to be creative in my makes, so it helps me to stay quite creative when I'm stitching. And okay, I like the blue. I like the blue. Now I do want blue somewhere else on here, so where do I want it? Do I want to put it in my maybe as I do those arches, I will also do, well, that was silly. Look how far I traveled. Let me take that out. I don't want to travel down that far. This is the back story of my piece so far. Let me rethread this. I had to look and see if you were on camera, and my little girl has been just... she ate all her food out of her dish, and now she's probably wanting more. Me as my older girl, she's I can't talk to her. I can't tell her no and stuff. She doesn't understand. She is deaf, and she can see, but I'm convinced she can only see shadows now at this point. We're so proud of her. She's going to be 18 next month in March. And she's been such a wonderful friend and companion for both my husband and myself. And she was the queen of the house when the little ones came, when Evan and Lily came. And they came in the same year, 2021. Evan was born in January, and Lily was born in September. So they both came in the same year, and Mia was, you know, the head of the house, and she was just had to show them the way around, and who was boss and who wasn't boss. On occasion, who wasn't boss, but she loved playing with them. And now the roles of my little pets have changed. My little one, especially my little girl Lily, she's the youngest. She'll turn 5 in September. She actually I will say to her to take Mia outside. Can you take Mia outside? Mia wants to go outside, and she actually trots Mia out there and makes sure she comes back. And if Mia is making noises that we're not familiar with, Lily's the first one to be by her side to see what is going on. And I just think it's so precious. Okay, there's the blue. I think I'm going to stop there with the blue until I see. I may be coming back to all of these several times while I switch colors out and so on. So obviously I won't do the whole thing on camera, but I will. It would take too long, but I will definitely come back to show you what has evolved into the finished piece. Oops. I think I started to weave my thread back in there, and I've got a knot now, so bear with me. I have to check it. Okay, I'm coming back to you with this green once I got my little dog settled down a little bit, and I'm trying to decide if I want green there. I do want green on one of those stripes, but it's not going to show when I jump over here anyway, so this one will show, but those in the corner I think will be covered up with the other panel, or what should I call them, segments? Yeah, this will be covered up with this. So when I get to picking some colors for this, yeah, we'll go with green there. And I decided to do running stitch on those instead of the stem stitch. But I think for under here, I may do, because I should have, see, when you're spontaneous and you don't know what stitches you're going to do first, second, and third, I should have done this row of stitching these before I started the gold part of the, this. So now I just have to be very careful that I don't split my gold thread when I go under here to stitch that. And you might not be able to see exactly where I'm stitching, but this is definitely not ideal. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take that last stitch out, I think, and redo it. So let me do that. I'll be back just a minute. Okay, so I was going to put these just green underneath, but now I decided to put it over top, and I think I'm more happy with it that way. I actually like it over top of the gold. So we'll continue on. If, you know, I do tell myself lots of times, if you don't like it, Jill, you can take it out. It's not a big deal. No, nobody likes to unpick stitching that they've already put in. But I may be a rare case, but if I don't like it, then I'm certainly going to unpick it and put it back in, change the color, change the stitch, change something. But can you see how that's coming out on top of the gold? I like that. So I'm going to continue putting it on top of the gold everywhere, all the way across. Now, if I was going to satin stitch these bars, these part of the stitch piece through there, then I would have definitely had to do that first. But I like this. Now for the next one, I don't know. Maybe I'll want it to go underneath. I do like all sorts of, I love the look of weaving and plaid and those things. So we may have to accommodate those. Coming up here, find my spot. Be sure I go down and catch where I left off. And I know you hear people who do stitching on YouTube that, you know, it's hard for them to see, and it is, because if I don't use a magnifying glass to help me stitch, but I think sometimes I should. However, sometimes it isn't the magnifying part when you're doing videos. It's the way that you have to hold the fabric or hold the needle so that the viewer can see it as well as, so that you can see it as well as I can see where I'm headed and where I'm going. And so it can be challenging because I keep wanting to lean this toward me, and then you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm sure you get the idea of where I'm headed with this. I'm just making sure if where my stitch ends, my prior stitch ends, that I make it over those gold threads with my green as I'm coming by. See that? I kind of like that. Can you see? Can you see? Now, the other thing is when I'm using the blue pen to do my doodles, you'll notice that the stitching looks strange, or it doesn't look as nice, or it's impacted by the blue lines that are on the fabric. And so sometimes we don't get the true picture of what that's going to look like until the piece is completed. So there's that color. Okay. I think I can end this off. I don't think I'm gonna not do any more green for right now. Let me get that back stitch, small back stitch, and a snip in here. And then we go from there. Okay. Oh yeah, that's very cute. Okay. Let's see, I've used that color, my blue color, my green color. I do want to use some white, but I may end up putting white, this color. Yeah, I think I'm gonna thread up some of this white and see. Well, it's not white, it is an off-white. And see how it looks on that plaid part. Let's see if I can get this threaded. I may have to enlist the help of my threading tool, maybe not. This needle's a little smaller eye than the other one I was using. There we go. Make a knot. Okay, so I think the first place I want to go is I'm going to go around this part of the, now getting my first stab in there in the right place. Can be, there we go. Okay. And you know, these blue lines that I draw, oh my goodness, please don't criticize. When I doodle on paper, it isn't perfect. My husband used to laugh at me because I would sit and just start doodling, but I said, he says, how do you know where you're going? And I, you know, like the next line and such and so on. And I said, I don't know. I just put it where I think it belongs, and I'm not sure that it belongs where I'm putting it, but that's where it's going to go. So we chuckle about that. I had another person say to me, well, how do you get your circles? Because when I doodled all the time, I could get my circles were just like, you know, I traced them out of an art book or something. And I said, well, when you draw 1,000 circles a day, not a day, but you know what I'm saying. So many of them, it isn't too hard to start making them pretty accurate. So I got really good at making circles, not so much as these half circles. And I haven't really doodled for a long time. My last book might have been 2019. This is a long time ago. Oh, now it's been a long time, but I just had fun doing it, so I just did it when I felt like it, and, you know, so on. I did decide to put this underneath, and you can see the trouble that I'm having. Should have been more forward-thinking when I was doing this, or I should have maybe woven it underneath. There, you can kind of see that didn't go where I really wanted it to go. I could couch it down, but I don't think I want to do that. Let's go up to the next stitch and see how that one goes in. And let me maybe use a different stitch. I could change right here if I want. All right. I don't want to use running stitch because that puts a empty space in between the stitches. If you notice, I also took all the blue lines off of this one with using my heat gun, and you can see now what it looks like. And down here, this is going to be covered up as part of that, so this piece will lay over top of that a little bit, so you won't see where those other stitches might have gone. So I'm just moving along on this piece here with the satin stitch, going along this bottom piece here. I think I'll start my way back. I've come from the left to the right, and now I'm going to go from the right to the left, and maybe I won't have to come back again. Let me see. I have another green color. I think I mentioned that, but I don't think they matched up good enough to be used in the same. They were not a shade different. They were several shades difference, and I wasn't real keen on putting them together. But I just pick colors I like, and you know, that's how they fall together. Oh my. Actually, I really love neutrals. Neutral colors are my favorite. But when it comes springtime and I want to see the flowers, you know, there are no flowers that are neutral color in my mind. They are just, each one so pretty in its own space. Yeah, I think I'll stick another thread there so I don't have to come back. Let's see. There we go. And I am going from the bottom up to the top, and rather than trying to save thread and go across, I'm going up, satin stitch, and then down to the bottom again, insert my needle, and then up to the top again, and you can see on the back it creates a thick backstory as well when you do that. But I like the way the stitches lay better than if I go side to side. If you're very good at getting your stitches side to side, you probably can't tell the difference, but I am not that proficient at, well, I wouldn't say that. I would say that my experience tends to keep directing me back to putting them wrapping rather than stab stitching. And you could do this probably in one motion, although for satin stitch I don't. And also, do I care if, I don't really care if this edge here is all totally even. Be nice if the bottom edge was even, but this is just for fun. You know, I'm not searching for perfection. I'm just searching for some fun. Spend my afternoon stitching and creating something cute. Hey, I count that as a good day in my book. So we're doing well. We've been to a couple of parties. We went to a Mardi Gras dinner. They had a jazz band there the other night, Tuesday night. And that was real fun. They were so busy, and you had to have reservations, and they were 100% booked. So the tables were very full, but the Mardi Gras food was great. Things like jambalaya and po' boys and like that. Very good. And the band was good. We enjoyed listening to them. They were lots of fun. They played from a stage area, and then they also wound around through the tables and such, so that was real fun. So we were there with some friends. And then what else have we done? Probably not a lot. I can't think. Can't think what we've done. I know we did something else, but it has left me. You know, if my brain doesn't have to keep it in there, then I just let it go, and I don't force my brain to remember. But it seems like we were out the other evening again, so a couple times in a week. But once the weather warmed up, it's just so nice to get out, because I do tend to keep myself quite housebound when the weather's bad. I think I've mentioned before, I like to cuddle next to the fire, put my coffee or tea down and cuddle up next to the fire, stitch or read a book. Or I was finishing a series of these books, and it was called Slow Horses. And it's also a series on, let's see, iTunes, I think. Apple iTV. I don't have that, but I am watching it with a friend. And so I wanted to finish up all the books. There's 9 in the series, and then each movie, or I shouldn't say that, each season of the series, it kind of covers one of the books. So I started watching them just a little bit ago when I was on book 8, and then I just finished book 9, so now I can go and finish watching all of the rest of the series. It was really different. I really liked it. It was because it was different, I think. And it's a spy, but not, I don't know, the characters were interesting. The books were fantastic. I love the books. And but these Slow House is where they send spies that have perhaps made error in judgment on their job, and they put them into positions in the Slow House that are more clerical in design, so that they don't have to go out in the field anymore. Of course, everyone that gets assigned to Slow House is not happy about it, because they went into the service to serve the country and not to be stuck in Slow House. But they have all the characters. There's lots of action in them too. And if you don't do anything except watch the trailer for the series, watch the trailer for the series, you'll get a feel for how things switch and change fast. And that's what drew me in, was my brother had read the books and said, here, you might like these, and suggested that I watch the trailer. So before I even started the first book, or I think I maybe just had started it, might have read a couple of pages, and I watched the trailer, and I thought, oh boy, I have to read these before I can watch the rest of them. Now, I'm an avid reader, so I like to definitely read the books. I get a lot of enjoyment out of reading the books. And I hate to say, because the actors and directors and producers and all those people who come together to create these shows and series are very talented. But for me, the author writing the books, I just love these books. And I think I get a lot more visualization letting my mind go to work while I'm reading than watching the show on TV. So unusually, I like these books enough to say, hey, I'm going to watch these movies. Now I'm into only the second season, so that would be the second book on the TV series. But if you like spy movies and intrigue and that kind of thing, you should try it out. Might not be your cup of tea, but I found it interesting. So that's what I've been doing lately. And let's see, what else have we been doing? Reading, watching the series, catching up, trying to go outside, not being able to. Having dinner with friends. I mean, that's a full life. I enjoy everything I do. I tell my brother, I said, I go out just perfectly the right amount of time I spend out and about. I said, the rest of the time, if I want to spend it in my house doing my crafting, I'm very happy doing that. I don't have to feel like I have to get out. I'm not like that. I live in a neighborhood that is very conducive to going for walks and going for longer walks outdoors, because we have what in the U.S. I think a lot of people be familiar with, the rails to trails, where they created walking paths and biking paths in certain areas, and one of them, and it goes through different regions or areas and little towns and such, that it can be quite long, but you can just do a segment of it. You don't have to do the whole thing. And fortunately, we live right across the street from rails to trails that is very nice. It takes you through the woods, and so it's just beautiful. And then there's what's called Cherry Creek runs through the area that I walk, and then it actually goes through the college across the street, and so it's very nice. I think I only have about one more stitch to do, and then I don't think I have to go back. Let me see if I can get this in the right spot. I don't think. That'll need another one. There we go. So there's my green satin stitch. You can see the back. Oh, it looks like I got a little knot there, and I just kept going, but it's not going to come out. Yeah, I like that. So that part is done. Yeah, so as soon as the weather gets a little warmer, I'll bundle myself up and go over and do my walking over there. If I go the length of where I start to the end of the trail from this side, it ends up being just a 2-mile walk for me. And I used to walk it every other day. I used to do 2 miles every other day. So I need to pick up my pace and get myself out there. So I'm going to stop for a little bit and take a look at this and decide how I'm going to finish this one, or I may move on to this one. I'll have to see. And I will be coming back to you with the next portion, pardon me, of this video. I am having so much fun with these little things. What the heck? What the heck? They're just so cute. Okay, so I'll be back later with some more to show you, and I may jump around a bit now, so I'll see you in a bit. So I'm finally back with the final final page for D, which actually I forgot to put D down here. Let me do that while you can look at the page. I doodled all over, obviously, and let me get this written, is for Doodle. Okay, so D is for Doodle, and I know when I left you and paused before, I wasn't nearly so far along, but these little segments here took me a long time to do because I just kept stitching. And isn't that what Doodle does? I mean, if you draw doodles or start doodling, I mean, it just one shape just leads to the next, to the next, to the next, and that's pretty much what happened here. I did, you can see I did little crosses on the, I did cross stitch in the middle of each of those, and then I did a little tying stitch perpendicular to the center of each cross stitch. I whipped the blue with a gold, and then I wrapped these little segments here, and then I also up here tied them, which I thought was pretty cool. Did a few French knots and then some seed stitch in there just to finish that off, and I thought that turned out pretty good. I'm not sold on the colors I chose, but doodling is usually done in, well, the doodling I do, except for major shapes within the drawing, which might have a color. My doodles are all black and white. So over here, I did satin stitch along the bottom, stem stitch, and some wrapping with some little extra little twigs off the sides, and then some, I went wild with red and did French knots for little buds on the little, turned them into flowers. And then I just satin stitched and outlined these shapes here. Over here I did, I connected a back stitch, a connected blanket stitch, that's the white. And then I did thread weaving, and I used every color that I used on the page except for the dark blue, which I wanted to kind of keep perpendicular. And I did thread weaving through each of the legs of the blanket stitch on this segment here. That was a lot of fun. I had fun doing that one. And this one was a combination of a lot of things. So we did seed stitch in 2 different colors. We did this straight stitch and then a little straight stitch to define the bottom of those. This white here is a blanket stitch, and then French knots. And I just did some herringbone stitch, and I went and weaved throughout the herringbone stitch and did a tie at the cross section of each herringbone stitch. Just little straight stitches here and some white to break up the blue, and some gold with some little tiny French knots here, and a little more white seed stitch. So that is my doodle stitch for this week. I wrote D is for Doodle. This is number 4 of 2026 in my name. And then I wrote, and I thought this was cute because D is for destination, but obviously with doodle stitching, as in doodle drawing, there's no destination, only thread meeting fabric. So that's what I wrote for that one. So that was my D for this week's video, and I hope that you'll come back to see more. I thank you very much for visiting me today and coming to see what I had to offer. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I thank you so much for taking time. It means so much to me. You guys are great. I hope you have a great day. I hope that you do something you love. And until the next time, thanks again.